I came back from my business trip earlier than expected. I didn't tell anyone I was returning. I wanted to surprise Miguel. When I arrived on our street, I saw several cars parked in front of our house. The garden was decorated with blue and pink balloons. A banner read, "Welcome, our little miracle." I parked my car a street away and walked over. The door was slightly open. Music and laughter spilled from inside. When I stepped in, I froze. In the middle of the living room, Carmen, my best friend, was visibly 6 months pregnant. My mother-in-law, Rosa, was gently stroking her belly while my mother served drinks. Gifts were stacked on a decorated table. "So, is the nursery ready?" my Aunt Elena asked. "Almost," Carmen replied. Miguel insisted on painting it himself. He's been working on it every weekend. At that moment, my husband walked in, carrying more drinks. He approached Carmen and hugged her from behind, placing his hands on her belly. "We just need to set up the crib. We picked it out together last week." I watched as my mother stiffened upon seeing me. She quickly walked over. "Anna, we weren't expecting you today," she whispered, grabbing my arm. "Let's go outside. We need to talk." I pulled away from her grasp. "Talk about what? About how my husband got my best friend pregnant while I was working in another country?" Chatter in the room died down. Carmen was the first to notice me. Her face turned pale. Miguel stood frozen, his hands still on her belly. "Anna," he began. "Don't you dare." I cut him off. "How long have you been cheating on me?" No one answered. My father, standing in a corner, couldn't even look me in the eye. "I can explain," Carmen said, taking a step forward. "We didn't want you to find out like this." "Oh? And how were you planning to tell me? After the baby was born, or when they turned 18? My mother-in-law stepped in. "Anna, please, think about the baby. Carmen doesn't need this stress in her condition." "Her condition?" I let out a humorless laugh. "The same condition I was. In 2 years ago when I lost my baby. Where was your concern then, Rosa?" The silence that followed was deafening. My mother tried again. "Honey, I know this is difficult." "Difficult for whom?" "For me, who worked nonstop for 9 months while my husband was sleeping with my best friend. Or for all of you who had to." "Keep up the charade." Miguel finally stepped away from Carmen. "Anna, can we talk privately? Don't make a scene." "A scene?" "No, Miguel. A scene would be telling everyone how you convinced me to take that overseas job. How you said we needed the money to start our family." I turned to Carmen. "Did he tell you that? Or did he say he was lonely and abandoned while his cruel wife chased her career?" Carmen started crying. "It wasn't like that. We didn't plan this." "Of course not. I suppose you just tripped and fell pregnant by my husband. These things happen, right?" The guests began shifting uncomfortably. Some grabbed their bags ready to leave. My father finally spoke up. "Anna, calm down. You're upset." "Upset? No, Dad. I'm perfectly calm. In fact, I'm grateful." My mother frowned, confused. "Grateful?" "Yes, because now I see everyone for who they really are. My husband, the liar. My best friend, the traitor. And my family, the cowards who chose to protect this lie instead of me." I walked over to the gift table and grabbed one at random. "This one's yours, Mom. You bought a nice gift for your son-in-law's mistress's baby." "Anna, please," my mother pleaded. I tore the wrapping paper open. It was a white baby outfit with blue details. "How thoughtful. I hope you kept the receipt." Miguel stepped forward, trying to take the gift from my hands. "Enough, Anna. You're making a fool of yourself." "Making a fool of myself?" "No, Miguel. You did that all on your own, getting my best friend pregnant while I was paying all the bills." My mother-in-law stood up, outraged. "This is too much. Miguel was just looking for the happiness you couldn't give him. Always busy, always working." "You're right, Rosa. I was too busy working to pay the mortgage on the house where your son was sleeping with my friend." I looked around the room. Every familiar face now looked like that of a stranger. "You know what? You can keep the house, the furniture, the gifts. But Miguel, I suggest you get a good job because you won't have access to my money anymore." "What are you talking about?" he asked, turning pale. "I'm talking about how, while I was overseas, I wasn't just working. I was also consulting a lawyer. I have proof of every penny I spent on this house, on you, on our marriage." I walked out of that house without looking back. My hands were shaking. My breathing was erratic, but I refused to break down in front of them. They didn't deserve to see my tears. I walked away, ignoring the curious stares from the neighbors, who had probably heard every word of the scene that had just unfolded. I got into my car and slammed the door shut. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly that my fingers turned white. My vision was blurred, but I refused to cry. I started the engine and just drove. No destination, no direction, just getting away from that nightmare. My phone was flooded with messages, missed calls from my mother, texts from Miguel, even Carmen. "Please, Anna, we need to talk. This wasn't supposed to happen this way. You don't understand the whole situation." Oh, I understood. I understood perfectly. I understood that while I was working to support my home, my family, my marriage, they were together. I understood that every time Miguel called me saying he missed me, it was a blatant lie. I understood that every time Carmen said she was busy and couldn't talk, it was because she was busy with him. A bitter taste filled my mouth. Disgust at myself for not seeing it sooner. After driving for a while, I pulled into the parking lot of a random hotel. I needed a place to breathe. I wasn't going back to that house that now stood as a monument to my humiliation. I walked to the front desk and booked a room for a few days. The receptionist gave me a strange look, probably because of my disheveled appearance, but handed me the key without asking questions. The moment I stepped inside the room, I locked the door and collapsed onto the bed. Only then did the weight of everything crush me. I curled up, hugging myself, and let the tears fall. Tears of rage, of disgust, of a deep suffocating pain that squeezed my chest. But I couldn't stay like this forever. I had to do something. The next morning, I went straight to my lawyer's office. He already knew about my situation and had all the necessary documents ready to ensure that I got out of this mess with as little damage as possible. I want to start the process today, I said firmly. Divorce, property division, everything. And I want it to be clear that Miguel won't see a single cent of my money. He nodded. You have more than enough evidence to contest any claim he might make. The house is in your name. All the expenses were covered by you. He has no rights to anything. I took a deep breath. Good. Then let him find out the hard way. I walked out of the office feeling an odd sense of relief. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I was in control of my own life. My phone buzzed. Miguel. I ignored it. Minutes later, a message popped up. We need to talk. Please, Ana. I only responded with, talk to my lawyer. Days passed, and the calls and messages didn't stop. Until one afternoon, while I was having coffee at a cafe near the hotel, someone approached my table. Miguel. He looked awful. Deep. Eye bags, messy hair, but I felt no sympathy. Ana, please. He sat across from me without being invited. I didn't want you to find out like that. I crossed my arms. Oh, but how did you want me to find out? With an invitation to the baby shower? He ran a hand over his face, exhausted. This isn't how I wanted things to happen. I made a mistake. A mistake? Getting my best friend pregnant was a mistake? No, Miguel. It was a choice. You chose to sleep with her. You chose to lie to me. You chose to let everyone cover for you. He lowered his head. I was lonely, Ana. You were never here. You were always traveling, always busy with work. I let out a bitter laugh. And why was I busy, Miguel? Because I was the one paying for our damn house. While you sat at home doing nothing. He said nothing. You want to know the most ironic part? I continued. I took that job because I thought we were building something together. I made sacrifices, thinking it was for a greater good. But while I was working myself to exhaustion, you were screwing my best friend. He looked at me, desperate. I know I messed up, Ana, but can't we fix this another way? I leaned forward, staring directly into his eyes. We are fixing it. My lawyer has already filed for divorce. You won't get a cent from me. And as for that child, I hope you're a good father because I want you out of my life. Ana, please. It's over, Miguel. I stood up and walked away without looking back. It didn't take long for the news to spread. My real friends, the ones who hadn't betrayed me, stood by my side. And my family? Oh, they tried to reach out. My mother called me multiple times, trying to justify everything. We didn't want to hurt you, sweetheart. It was complicated for all of us. You need to forgive. Forgive? No. I moved on. Over time, I rebuilt my life. I left that hotel and bought myself a new apartment. I focused on my career, my future. And Miguel? Well, he soon realized that life wasn't so easy without the comfort I had provided. A few weeks later, I received another message. Can we talk? I miss you. I laughed, deleted the message without replying, and for the first time in a long time, I felt free. When I finally received confirmation that Miguel had been officially served with the divorce papers, I knew his real nightmare was just beginning. He tried to contact me in every way possible. He called me dozens of times a day, sent endless messages, even showed up at places he knew I frequented. But I didn't answer. I didn't give him a chance. I refused to let him manipulate me. One night, as I was returning to my apartment, I found my mother waiting outside. Ana, we need to talk. I rolled my eyes. I already knew exactly what this was about. We have nothing to talk about. Miguel is desperate. You're taking everything from him, she said, outraged, as if I were the villain in this story. I crossed my arms. Oh, now he's the victim. Honey, he made a mistake, but that doesn't mean you should ruin his life. I let out a humorless laugh. He ruined my life, Mom. He cheated on me, got my best friend pregnant, and all of you covered for them. And now you have the nerve to tell me that I'm being cruel? She sighed, reaching for my hand, but I pulled away. What you're doing to him. This isn't right, Ana. Anger burned in my chest. Oh, you want to talk about what's right? Was it right for me to pay for the mortgage alone while he was screwing my best friend? Was it right that I worked my ass off while he played the perfect husband? Now he gets to deal with the consequences. She looked at me like I was a monster. He has nowhere to go. I shrugged. Not my problem. She shook her head in disbelief. I didn't raise you to be this way, Anna. And I didn't expect my own mother to take the side of a cheating bastard. I turned around and walked into my building without looking back. Days passed, and Miguel's situation only got worse. Since I was the one who had paid for everything, he was now drowning in bills. The mortgage payments were overdue, and without my money to cover them, he quickly spiraled into financial ruin. Then came the eviction. I knew it was coming. When I received confirmation that he had failed to make any payments, I made sure to personally be there to witness the moment he was forced out of my house. When I arrived, the place was in chaos. Boxes were scattered around the front yard. Miguel was arguing with the officer handling the eviction. Carmen stood beside him, clutching her pregnant belly with a panicked expression. "Anna!" he shouted when he saw me. "You can't do this!" To me, I crossed my arms, feeling a dark sense of satisfaction bloom inside me. I can and I did. This isn't fair. I lived in this house. No, I paid for this house. You were just a parasite living in it. His face turned red with frustration. "Where the hell do you expect me to go?" I shrugged. Not my problem. Carmen looked at me, as if expecting mercy. "Anna, please, please?" She actually had the nerve to look me in the eyes and say, "Please?" I took a step toward her. "Oh, so now you can say my name?" Before, it was just, "I hope she never finds out," wasn't it? She lowered her head. "It wasn't supposed to be like this. But it is. And now you and Miguel have to deal with it." Miguel ran his hands over his face, looking exhausted. "You don't have a heart." I tilted my head. "Funny, because you sure loved that heart when it was paying all your bills." He opened his mouth to argue, but shut it again. The officer approached. "Time's up. You need to vacate the property now." Miguel's expression turned to sheer panic. He looked around, realizing that he was out of options. He grabbed a box and slammed it onto the ground. "You just want to see me destroyed, don't you?" I leaned in closer, meeting his gaze without a trace of pity. "Yes." He clenched his jaw and stormed away, Carmen trailing after him. I stood there, watching, as he left, broke, homeless, and powerless. In the following days, my entire family turned against me. My aunts called me. My mother showed up at my apartment again. Even my father, who usually stayed out of things, tried to intervene. "Anna, he's sleeping on your mother-in-law's couch. Don't you think this has gone too far?" "No, Dad, I don't. Carmen is pregnant. They have nothing." "Great. Then Miguel can finally do what he should have done a long time ago. Get a job." My mother threw her hands up, exasperated. "You're obsessed with revenge. And you're obsessed with protecting a cheater." They couldn't change my mind. And Miguel? Oh, Miguel was in ruins. No home, no comfort, no access to the money he had leached off me for years. I heard through some mutual friends that he had started taking odd jobs to make ends meet, but it wasn't enough. And then, the inevitable happened. Miguel showed up at my apartment. He looked miserable, thinner with dark circles under his eyes. "Anna, please, I have nothing left." I stared at him. "I know. I need help." I tilted my head, pretending to think. "Like I needed help when I found out you were cheating on me." He closed his eyes, frustrated. "I was an idiot, I know that. But I can't change the past." I crossed my arms. "No, but you sure as hell can suffer in the present." His hands clenched into fists as he swallowed his pride. "You don't have to be this cruel." "Oh, but I do. I learned from the best." And with that, I slammed the door in his face. And for the first time in years, I felt at peace. Miguel was finally experiencing what life was like without me. And me, I was finally free. Time passed, and just as I had predicted, Miguel sank even deeper. No home, no money, no comfort. He had gone from a spoiled, dependent husband to a desperate man, hopping from job to job just to keep himself afloat. And me, I moved on. I didn't feel sorry for him. In fact, every time I heard about another disaster in his life, I felt a twisted sense of satisfaction. It was a sweet taste of justice, of knowing that everything he had done to me was coming back to him. And then, I heard the best news I had received in months. Carmen filed for divorce. I found out through an acquaintance, one of the few people who still dared to talk to me after everything that had happened. She ran into me at a cafe, hesitated for a moment, then smiled slightly before dropping the bombshell. She left him. I blinked. "What?" "Carmen. She filed for divorce. And she wants alimony." The laugh escaped before I could stop it. A loud, genuine, from-the-gut laugh. "Are you serious?" I asked, still laughing. Dead serious. Miguel can't hold a stable job, and she doesn't want to be the one supporting him. Oh, the irony was delicious. Carmen, the woman who had sworn Miguel was her one true love, the one who clung to him like a parasite while I worked to pay for everything, had now done to him exactly what he did to me, left him when he was no longer useful. "And she wants alimony?" I asked, still grinning. "Yeah, she claims he promised to take care of her, and now that she has a baby, she needs financial support." I couldn't stop laughing. "Please tell me, Does Miguel even have money to pay her? My acquaintance smirked. No, and I lost it. Miguel hadn't just lost everything I had given him. Now even the woman he betrayed me for was financially screwing him over. Karma had come for him, and this time, he had no one left to leech off of. I have to see this. The following week, I made sure to accidentally show up at a place I knew Miguel still frequented. A rundown bar we used to go to, one of the only places he could still afford. He was sitting at the counter, looking like a ghost of his former self. Thinner, dark circles under his eyes, his beard unkempt, and of course a cheap beer in his hand. I walked in slowly, taking my time, and sat 2 seats away. He noticed me immediately, his face tightening. "What do you want?" he muttered, his voice rough and tired. "Nothing," I said, picking up my own drink. "Just enjoying the view." He sighed heavily. "Are you happy now?" I took a sip, savoring the moment. "Yes, very," he scoffed, shaking his head. "You think this is funny?" "Miguel, I think this is hilarious. You threw our marriage away for Carmen, and look at you now. She left you. She took whatever little you had left." He ran a hand over his face, clearly exhausted. "You don't understand." "Oh, I understand perfectly. Tell me, how did your great love fall apart so quickly?" He went quiet for a long moment before staring at his empty glass. "She said she couldn't be with someone who had nothing to offer. Funny, right? That's exactly what you said about me." He shut his eyes, his jaw tightening. "You don't get it, Anna." "Oh, but I do. You were only good enough for her when you were convenient. Now that you can't provide the comfortable life she wanted, she threw you away like garbage." He didn't argue, because he couldn't. I stood up, ready to leave. "You know what's the best part? You deserve every bit of this." And I walked out, leaving Miguel to drown in his own misery. After that day, I cut off everyone connected to my past. I distanced myself from my family, the hypocritical aunts who kept telling me to forgive, my mother, who insisted I had gone too far. I owed nothing to any of them. The only person I owed something to was myself. And so I started over. I rebuilt my life from scratch, bought myself a new apartment, just for me, sold everything that reminded me of that pathetic chapter of my life, donated some things, burned others. Miguel and Carmen were erased. Went out more, met new people, enjoyed life without carrying dead weight on my back. For the first time in years, my life was mine. And while I moved forward, Miguel kept falling apart. Months later, I heard that he had tried to appeal the divorce ruling, claiming that he deserved alimony instead. Of course, the judge laughed in his face and denied everything. I also found out that Carmen kept draining whatever tiny bit of money he had left. And me? I had never felt better. The world was finally how it should be. I was free, and Miguel was getting exactly what he deserved.